I once sobbed so hard over a misplaced decimal that the motion sensor lights in the office bathroom shut off. That's how long I sat there on a toilet at 2:08 a.m., choking on CVS brand tissues and humiliation because my boss forgot to tell me the CFO was expecting a presentation that morning. I'd been combing through quarterly data for hours, and a single slip, an extra zero, made it look like we were laundering cartel money through our travel reimbursements. I fixed it, of course, rebuilt the spreadsheet from scratch, smiled through the meeting. Brent, my boss, patted my back like I was a reliable coffee machine and told the room, "Yeah, I always say she's got the best eye for detail." What he never said was that I'd been logging 60-hour weeks while battling migraines from the flickering fluorescent light above my cube, that I'd started carrying a bottle of antacids in my bra just to save time. That night, post-cry, post-flickering bulb, I made a promise to myself. I would never again let my job hinge on the fragility of an Excel file named Final Real Final. Use this one too. XLSX. So I started building something. Quietly. In the shadows of Slack messages and status updates, long after teams had signed off. I didn't ask for permission because Brent would have said no, or worse, let's form a committee. It started small, a script that pulled numbers from our god-awful legacy system, then an automated trend analysis. Eventually, it morphed into a full-blown reporting system. It sent out PDF dashboards with dynamic visuals, predictive forecasting, even cheeky little footnotes, the kind of thing Brent would call cute before copy-pasting the results into his PowerPoints and presenting them as his innovation. And when leadership ate it up, best quarter-on-quarter visibility we've had in 5 years. Brent just smiled like a proud parent, said something about cross-functional synergy and leveraging in-house expertise. I was the expertise. He was the synergy. But I wasn't mad. Not really. Because it worked. I could sleep through a Thursday without dreaming in pivot tables. No one said thank you, but no one was asking for late-night reworks either. But then Brent started getting weird about it. Kept asking me where the source code lived if it backed up to the shared drive. He'd ask, sipping his lukewarm Americano like a man who doesn't know the difference between JSON and a soy latte. I'd just smile and say, "Don't worry, it's secure." Because it was secure, licensed, and mine. I didn't build this for revenge. I built it for survival. But survival has funny side effects, doesn't it? Especially when the people around you think you're just the girl who cries in the dark over bad formulas. Brent used to swing by my desk every morning with a dad joke and a fake chuckle, like clockwork. "What's the ETA on our magical spreadsheet fairy today?" He'd grin, as if that line didn't make me want to shove a dry erase marker in my ear canal. But lately, radio silence. He stopped asking for updates, stopped dropping my name in meetings, just leaned back in his chair like a smug Buddha made of unpaid overtime and hummed phrases like resource optimization and strategic streamlining. At first, I thought maybe he had indigestion or a midlife identity crisis. But then came the buzzwords: realignment, headcount audit, leaner organizational structure. They always drop them like sprinkles on a cupcake, pretty, harmless, utterly designed to distract you from the fact that someone's about to get eaten alive. The final cherry, a Monday meeting where Brent gave a slide deck presentation on departmental automation synergy. My system, my tool, was the star of the show. There were animated pie charts, glowing testimonials from regional managers, even a quote from the CTO about revolutionizing internal analytics. What there wasn't: any mention of me. Not one nod, not one developed in-house by our talented analyst, not even a footnote. Just Brent, basking in a PowerPoint glow like a man who'd birthed the damn algorithm from his loins. After the meeting, I lingered behind while everyone shuffled out, buzzing about how the system was being rolled out cross-departmentally. Someone from sales said, "So great, this is plug and play now. No need to even train anyone." And I just stood there, staring at that last slide. No need to even train anyone. That's when it hit me like the toner smell from an overworked printer. They weren't scaling me. They were scaling around me. Still, I tried to brush it off. Gaslit myself the way all overachievers do. They're probably just waiting until the next planning cycle. Of course they'll keep me on. Who else could maintain the system? I even rehearsed what I'd say when Brent inevitably asked me to be the lead automation strategist, or something equally inflated and underpaid. But every time I passed the conference room, he was in there with HR or with legal or with the CIO, door closed, laughter muffled, laptops open, and me, out in the hallway like a digital Cinderella with no fairy godmother. Then I caught the tail end of a hallway whisper, Brent talking to someone from compliance. He said, "Yeah, the system's turnkey now. Honestly, it runs itself. Runs itself." That was the first time I fantasized about yanking the key, just turning the whole thing off, and watching him try to read a CSV file without crying. But I didn't. Not yet. Because part of me still believed they'd do the right thing. And that part of me needed to die first. They scheduled the meeting like it was a casual coffee chat. 2:15 p.m. on a Wednesday, right after the weekly status sync. Brent didn't even have the decency to look sweaty. He just sat there across the little round HR table, fingers tented like a man trying to appear deeply thoughtful while his brain ran a loop of corporate Mad Libs. "First, let me just say how much we appreciate your contributions. Truly." HR Barb. Her name tag said People and Culture Specialist, which felt like calling a firing squad a surprise transition team. Nodded so hard I thought her bun might snap off. "Unfortunately," Brent continued, "with the new automation initiatives, your role has essentially automated itself out of relevance. No mention of who built the initiatives. No thank you for single-handedly dragging our data infrastructure out of 2009. Just, your role has become redundant due to process improvements." I almost laughed. Process improvements? They might as well have handed me a pink slip made from recycled punchlines. Barb jumped in with a laminated folder and a speech so pre-baked I could smell the inkjet toner. Severance package, 2 months Cobra, and a referral letter so bland it could have been written by ChatGPT on Ambien. And me? I didn't cry, didn't argue, didn't whip out the receipts or wave a finger in Brent's Botoxed face. I just smiled, signed the papers, shook Barb's hand like we were sealing a deal on a used Honda. Because I knew something they didn't. They hadn't read the license terms. Hell, Brent thought API was short for Assistant Please Install. What they didn't realize is that the entire automation system was built under my personal software license, not the company's. Mine. I coded it off hours, used my own dev environment, registered every module under my LLC, Olivia Technologies, established in the dark glow of a desk lamp in spite. Their turnkey system only turned if I let it. The second I got back to my desk, I sipped from my chipped thermos, lavender Earl Grey, slightly oversteeped, and opened the admin portal. I downloaded the final access key, saved it to an encrypted vault, then revoked the corporate token. Quietly. No fireworks, no alerts. Just silence. The kind that comes before a power outage. I logged out, powered down, deleted the shared credentials from my sticky note graveyard. Then I stood up, tucked the thermos under my arm, and walked out past Brent's glass office. He didn't even look up. That was fine. He'd be looking for me soon enough. The press release dropped 3 days after my exit. Bright white background, stock photo of 2 people high-fiving in front of a glowing screen. The headline read like it was written by a caffeinated intern with a buzzword addiction. Brentford and Company leads the future with seamless internal automation overhaul. Seamless. No joke. The article gushed about operational efficiency, next-gen scalability, and a turnkey analytics platform built in-house by our senior leadership team. No mention of the woman who coded the damn thing with a stress rash and a dream. Just Brent, front and center, posing with a smug tilt like he'd just finished solving climate change. I read it from a cafe 3 blocks away from HQ, sipping a lavender latte and debating whether to get a pistachio croissant or a bottle of something flammable. Instead, I opened a fresh Google Doc and started drafting an invoice template. Just in case. Rate: $500 per hour, 10-hour minimum. Payment required up front. No refunds, no exceptions. As I adjusted the margins, a notification pinged on my phone. LinkedIn message from Jasmine, one of the junior analysts I'd mentored. Smart girl, full of questions and Red Bull. Her message said, "Hey, hope you're doing okay. Quick question. Did you change something in the system before you left? It's not running. Like, at all. Dashboards are blank. Did something break? I didn't reply. Not because I was being cruel. I liked Jasmine, I really did, but there was nothing broken. That was the beauty of it. The system wasn't broken, it was dormant. Waiting. Without the authentication key I'd quietly disabled, the automation couldn't run a single query. Couldn't fetch, couldn't compile, couldn't email a single KPI to Brent's inbox. It was like trying to start a Tesla with a dead key fob, sleek, shiny, and absolutely useless. I scrolled back through the press release and chuckled. Seamless transition, he'd said. Meanwhile, the gears were already grinding to a halt. That night, I got 3 more messages. One from a frantic middle manager asking if I could hop on a quick call. One from an IT guy I hadn't spoken to in 6 months begging for admin access logs, and one from Barb, yes, HR Barb, asking if I could clarify a few details about system continuity. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I set up a PayPal business account, drafted a contract with terms so airtight it could survive re-entry, then poured myself a glass of Riesling and watched reruns of Shark Tank with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. Let them sweat. Let Brent sweat. Because for the first time in my career, I wasn't the one staying up at night fixing someone else's disaster. I was the disaster, and I was perfectly calibrated. Somewhere between the CFO's third espresso shot and the SVP of Strategy's third meltdown, Brent realized he was staring into the corporate equivalent of a black hole, a quarterly report window with no data, no visuals, and no idea how the hell it all worked. The tool, the one he'd just finished bragging about in that nauseating press release, wasn't just broken. It was inert, as useful as a microwave with no plug. The dashboards, normally pulsing with live metrics and predictive trend lines, were blank gray boxes. Titles, legends, axes, all there. But the content? Gone. The junior team tried to reboot the servers. IT ran diagnostics. One guy even tried to reinstall Chrome like that would spiritually summon the numbers back from the void. No one knew the backend structure. No one had the keys. No one had even read the code, let alone understood the layered triggers, the dependencies, the license tethered to my LLC like a leash. Brent paced the hallway like a man waiting for a vasectomy that was already half done. By 11 a.m., he was in the boardroom, sweating through his dress shirt, surrounded by executives who were staring at printed quarterly packets that looked like accidental blank canvases. Is this some kind of template? The VP of Ops asked, flipping through her copy like a priest searching for a sign of life in the Bible. No, that's the final version, Brent muttered. The CFO raised an eyebrow. This is the final version? A pause. Then, with venomous calm, didn't Olivia manage this before? Brent choked out a half-laugh. Well, I mean, technically she architected the early phases, but the system is automated now. It's not supposed to need people. Because right now, the VP cut in, it looks like it needs a very specific person. Brent's face twitched, then flushed. Meanwhile, 3 miles away, I was rearranging my spice rack, while Fleetwood Mac played softly in the background. My email pinged. Subject line: Quick help. From Brent@BrentfordGlobal.com. Hey. Hope you're well. Super quick thing. Any chance you could help us real quick with the reporting platform? Just a tiny issue with dashboard refreshes. Nothing major. Appreciate any time you can spare. I read it twice. The emoji killed me. It felt like a hostage note written in lipstick. I closed the email and went back to alphabetizing. Basil, bay leaves, cinnamon. 20 minutes later, another ping. Subject: Urgent, please respond. From Brent@BrentfordGlobal.com. Hi again. Apologies for the second message. Really hoping we can get a bit of assistance. Report deadline is tomorrow, and we're having trouble accessing some of the key functions. Happy to compensate for your time, of course. Just let us know what you'd need. I took a sip of tea and leaned back in my chair. Watched the cursor blink at the bottom of the screen like a begging dog. I didn't respond for 36 hours. Not because I was busy, though I was, but because I knew silence would squeeze Brent's ego like a lemon in a rusted juicer. Day 1, I went to Pilates. Took the slow class, The kind where the instructor whispers affirmations and pretends core strength is a metaphor for emotional boundaries. Then I hit the farmer's market, spent $40 on absurdly small plums, and bought a ridiculous copper tart pan I didn't need. That night, I baked a lemon tart from scratch with brown butter in the crust and just enough sea salt to make you question your childhood. Day 2. I reread my original employment contract with a glass of wine and a pencil. Underline the part that said intellectual property created during company time is subject to review. Then underline the part right after that. Exclusions. Projects developed independently and not using company resources remained property of the creator. And there it was. The crown jewel. The loophole they hadn't bothered to close. Because why would they? They assumed I was just a cog. Quiet little analyst who cried over decimals and stayed in her lane. I was never in a lane. I built the highway. So on the third morning, I opened Brent's latest email, marked urgent, in all caps, complete with a red exclamation point, and hit reply. Brent, I'd be happy to assist. My current consulting rate is $500 per hour, with a 10-hour minimum per engagement. All sessions must be prepaid. Please confirm if you'd like to proceed, and I'll send over a formal invoice. Regards, Olivia. No smiley face. No exclamation mark. Just pure frost in a tailored font. It took less than 20 minutes. I picture Brent slumped at his desk, red-faced and breathing through his mouth, forwarding the email to legal. I imagine a legal guy, probably someone named Devin with a shaved head and too many screens, scanning the message, pulling up the contract, realizing she's covered. Ironclad. Then the CFO gets looped in, a woman with no time for excuses and even less patience for blank reports. Her response, I'm told, was 2 words. Just pay her. The wire hit my account 3 hours later. 10 grand, clean. No negotiations, no friendly discount, no corporate wrangling. Brent tried to add a quick zoom to the calendar. I declined. Instead, I poured myself a second glass of wine, activated a private sandbox server, and watched the data begin to move, streaming clean, elegant, and flawless like a symphony tuned in zeros and commas. They got their numbers. I got my piece. And a tart so good I moaned at my own fork. He was unraveling. I logged in from my kitchen table. No badge, no VPN, no Slack pings about quick stand-ups or syncing on priorities. Just me, a second cup of Darjeeling, and a soft breeze drifting in through the open window while Brent's empire of automation sat frozen like a scared possum in the headlights of a Q2 earnings call. 1 click. That's all it took. I toggled the master access key, re-enabled the data pools, and reconnected the transformation scripts. I watched as the system, my system, sprang back to life like it had just been shaken from a polite coma. Real-time dashboards repopulate in cascading waves of blue and green. Net profit charts slid into place. Forecasting modules lit up like a Christmas tree in a server room. It was beautiful if you're the kind of person who cries over clean code and symmetrical margins. And just before I finalized the push to production, I added one small thing. A watermark. Bottom right corner of every PDF, every chart, every interactive dashboard. Powered by Olivia Technologies. Size 9, italic, with a faint translucent shimmer. Barely noticeable, unless you were really looking. But they'd see it. The board would see it. Brent would definitely see it, and he'd have to keep seeing it every quarter, every investor meeting, every time he tried to slap his name on my work. That quiet little whisper would be there. Not yours. 30 minutes later, Brent emailed me a one-word message. Thanks. No punctuation. No apology. Just one hollow syllable sent from a man eating humble pie at room temperature. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened LinkedIn and there it was. A message request from a regional financial firm I'd never heard of. Hi, Olivia. We've seen your work. Very impressive. We're currently exploring automation solutions and would love to discuss a possible engagement. Would you be open to a discovery call? Translation. We saw the watermark. Googled you. We're desperate. I smiled. Typed out a polite response. I'd be happy to discuss a partnership. My standard rate applies. $500 per hour, 10-hour minimum. Please confirm if that aligns with your budget. They replied within the hour. We were thinking more in the range of $200 per hour. I closed the tab. If they wanted DIY, they could go back to Excel and watch their interns build Frankenstein dashboards out of broken formulas and tears. I wasn't here to fix amateurs. I was here to get paid like the ghost in the machine I'd always been. The earnings call was scheduled for 9 a.m. sharp, with all the pomp and tension of a televised execution. I logged into the live stream anonymously, mic off, camera off, no one the wiser. Just a shadow in the audience, watching the people who once smiled through gritted teeth at me now squirm under fluorescent lights and investor scrutiny. Brent looked aged. Not dramatically, but in the subtle ways that matter in the boardroom jungle. Deeper creases on his forehead, collar just a bit too tight, the faint shimmer of sweat tracing the edge of his temple. His eyes flicked nervously to the camera light as if it might blink back in Morse code. She's watching. The CFO opened with the usual jargon. Performance metrics, market resilience, shareholder value. I let the champagne bottle pop right around, exceeding internal benchmarks. Poured myself a glass and swirled it gently while I waited for my moment. Then it came. Slide 14. Q2 performance. Forecast versus actual. And underneath, as crisp as a scalpel. Powered by Olivia Technologies. They tried to crop it out. I could tell. The placement was slightly off-center, probably Brent's last-ditch effort to make the watermark less noticeable. But it was still there, faint and undeniable, glowing on every chart, every model, every bullet point on that slide deck like a digital signature from a woman who no longer worked weekends. An exec leaned into the mic. So, is Olivia staying on board as part of this initiative? Brent coughed, adjusted his tie. We continue to engage her services on a consulting basis. Translation: we pay her because we have no choice. I took a sip of my champagne. It was dry and cold and perfect. The call droned on about expansion and hiring initiatives, but none of it mattered. They could dress it up however they wanted. The real story was already embedded in the slides. Not just in the numbers, but in how those numbers appeared and who made them possible. Me. In a tab beside the live stream, my invoice template for Q3 was already filled out. New line items for SLA escalations and version upgrades. I added 15% to my standard rate and didn't bother justifying it. By the time they wrapped up with the usual questions from investors, I had already hit send. They'd pay it. They always paid it. Because I wasn't a risk anymore. I was infrastructure. The final slide faded to black. Brent let out a sigh you could practically hear through the screen. And I thought, quiet and satisfied. Redundant? No. Just billable.